I'm giving all the credit to Leinster. I think he's better than Morgan van den Berg. I think he's better than Faf de Klerk.
And Jaden
And Jaden.
doesn't really give the Bulls their flowers that often.
When they're at it, and you saw it in that game, they just look unbreakable. Welcome back to Saffa Unscripted. What a weekend of rugby. Semi-finals, done and dusted. And we've got our finalists between the Bulls and Leinster. And Robin, I know it's going to be Wednesday when this one comes out, but we haven't spoke about the finals. And it was a sensational weekend of rugby, right? Because we obviously had the Premiership and all those type of things going on, but we're just chatting about the URC. Did the games live up to expectation as we kind of hyped it up Friday morning?
Yeah, it definitely did. Well, for me at least, I felt we saw the good and old Leinster pulling through. We know that they've had a few weaker games, but they showed why they ended number one in the URC. I felt they played phenomenal, and they were back to that old strength and, just well-rounded Leinster that we used to seeing. And then when it comes to the South African derby, that's you know what you're going to get in that. So I was happy with. Yeah, I was happy with it, and it wasn't boring rugby. There were some good tries. It was physical. So I would say argy-bargy, bit of shithousery as well, but we'll get into that. And yeah, I felt it lived up to all expectations.
Yeah, we'll start off with the Leinster Glasgow game because there's a couple of talking points on that one as well. But before we get into that, people, please do remember to hit that like and subscribe button. We do appreciate you guys joining us on this new journey that we're taking on with Saffa's Unscripted. Just two fans coming together, talking about shit when it comes to rugby. Obviously, when international season starts, we'll probably watch a couple of games together and stuff, get some content for you in person. And we'll probably go out drinking because you just know that's always how it ends. And we'll get some other drunken fans' perspective on this thing as well. So anyway, if that's your type of thing, just talking about shit when it comes to rugby, please do remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Anyway, Leinster Glasgow, as you just mentioned, Leinster's they've looked like they had a couple of shaky performances. They've been consistent and brilliant throughout the season. Right, the Scarlets' performance not the best, and then obviously I don't want to keep on going back to the Northampton Saints one. That was obviously a bit of a shaky one, but Saints were brilliant. This weekend, they were so clinical. They made Glasgow look like Glasgow isn't the defending champions. It was a scary thing. And the scoreline was much worse, right? I think the end scoreline was 35-19 with Glasgow getting 2 tries at the end. But it was just brute force dominance from the start. And I don't want to say it's not like Glasgow didn't pitch up. I'm giving all the credit to Leinster. Every sniff they got points. In every facet of the game, destroyed Glasgow. We spoke about that battle between Sione Tuipulotu and Jordie Barrett. Well, I didn't see much of Tuipulotu out there. Jordie Barrett, another classy performance. Just class all over the pitch for Leinster. And once again, Jameson Gibson-Park, I'm of the opinion that he's the best 9 in the world. And another man of the match performance. I called for him to be World Player of the Year. And I know Ireland didn't do well, but this guy individually, he just feels unstoppable at the moment. Was Glasgow shit or Leinster just that good?
I think it came down to the defensive side of things. Look, we've seen Glasgow, they're probably the best attacking side in the URC. Hence why they came away champions last year. But Leinster's defense this year, we've got to give them credit. Jock Nienaber has really come up with a system that suits the way they want to defend. And we couldn't see any go-forward ball from Glasgow whatsoever. I mean, we know they've got these, super fast wings on the outside. They got Tuipulotu on the inside center. We didn't see any of these players, given the opportunity to take it to the wide channels or gain meters. It was almost like they were constantly playing on the back foot. And that's just credit to Leinster's defense. So it will be interesting to see how that will affect the Bulls on the weekend. But obviously, we're going to cover that game further on in this week to discuss how we feel that matchup goes. I think it does go slightly different. But look, Glasgow just couldn't front up physically enough, so they couldn't win those one-on-one battles. And when you've got a team like Leinster that are so dominant in their defensive structure, if you cannot beat a defender one-on-one, you're not going to gain that front foot ball. And just all credit to Leinster. That was a crazy good defensive display.
Yeah, they just kind of showed composure. They made it look a bit easy. While saying it, they made it look easy. They looked like a team on a mission as well. Where it's like I've called for them to win the URC at the start of the season. I just had the feeling, and it looks like a team on a mission to do that. And they just look unstoppable. Now, obviously, we've said that about the Bulls as well. It's going to be a fiery game this weekend in the final. Do you reckon it's going to be a feisty matchup? Because I reckon the Bulls have got a big upper hand when it comes to the physicality in terms of like the scrums and stuff. And we'll speak about the Bulls in a second. Mm-hmm. But just the way and how clinical Leinster is. If you look at that final, the Sharks had their opportunity, the semi-final between the Bulls and the Sharks. The Sharks had their opportunities as well. If you're going to give those opportunities to Leinster, they're going to take it. It's just in their DNA to do it. I mean, any sniff that they had of an opportunity against Glasgow, they took it. Was it the best defense from Glasgow? Probably not. But Leinster just ran the show in attack, gave them nothing in defense, mauled when they needed to maul. Dan Sheehan is a monster when it comes to scoring tries. Like, he's an absolute machine. Give him the ball, he's going to get over the try line some way, whether it's behind the maul, pick up and drive, or breaking a line, because he's got gas and speed to burn. Are you a bit scared for the Bulls, or do you reckon the Bulls go there thinking this is the year?
Yeah, well, without giving too much away in terms of how I think that game goes, I'm a bit worried when it comes to the kicking game. Now, I will give the Bulls their flowers. They had an exceptional kicking game when it came to that semi-final against the Sharks. But Leinster also have a great kicking game. They've got about 4 to 5 kicking options. You know, you've got James Lowe in the wing with a missile of a boot. You've got Gibson Park with some of the best box kicks. Then you've got Prendergast, and you've got an inside centre in Barrett that can also kick. So they've got
Jamie Osborne, who's been playing outside centre in the place of Ringrose. You don't even feel like they're missing Ringrose, and he's actually a fullback as well. He's got a massive left boot on him.
Yeah, so they just have like multiple really excellent kickers that they can use at any given time if they feel they're under pressure, or if they want to put, the Bulls, whoever they're facing, under pressure. So it does scare me a little bit when it comes to the Bulls game. I will be supporting the Bulls in the final just because I'm a Saffa, and maybe Casual won't agree on that. It doesn't really give the Bulls their flowers that often, but I'm going to be supporting the Bulls. And look, I think the kicking game is definitely going to be where this game is won or lost. Like I said before, Bulls were also exceptional in their kicking game, and they've got likes of Kane and Moody and stuff that can contest those balls. But when you got a guy on the pitch, a strong and physical, low, you just can't play that game with them. It's a bit tough to play that sort of kicking game.
That Kane and Moody versus James Lowe battle is going to be sexy.
It is. And don't want to give too much away. We'll chat about that in the towards the end of this week. But I think the one thing that scares me is their ability to have so much variation in the game, and that includes the kicking.
Well, the one thing that kind of scares me, and that takes you back to the Glasgow game, is no matter what the situation is, Leinster's so good in terms of keeping their structure. Defensively, attacking-wise, just looks like they keep on running set piece after set piece. Where there's a loose ball, they keep their defensive structure. Their structure is just built so beautifully. And it's been built over years and years. Adding a couple of international additions to that, of course, but just overall, when they add it, and you saw it in that game, they just look unbreakable. Like, how are you going to break that defensive structure? And then how are you going to break five to 10 set phases of pure set piece, getting that ball to the forwards, then getting it out wide? I mean, they've got the forwards that just always makes meters. Jack Conan eats meters for breakfast. Like, it's crazy. That man has been sensational. I'm so glad that he's got a British and Irish Lions call up, even though he plays off the bench for Ireland predominantly after Caelan Doris. But he's been brilliant for Leinster. You could arguably say he's been Leinster's best player and Ireland's best player, even though he's playing from the bench alongside Jamison Gibson Park. Sam Prendergast just running the show at the back. I know he gets a lot of criticism, but you have to give him his props when it's there. He looked very good this weekend, in my opinion. Cool, calm, composed. I'm very excited for that final one. But I looked at that Leinster team against Glasgow, and I was like, holy shit. This is not a team that's writing off the URC. They want to win this URC. That's the vibe that I got from them.
They had anger to them. They had a bit of anger to them. You could see it in their game.
Yeah, and all credit to them. You can't take anything away from that performance. I don't want to take anything away from it. I'll just give them their flowers. It's due. That was a sensational performance, especially after we said it was a bit of a lackluster one against Scarlets. I think even they would say it was a lackluster one against Scarlets. This one, you beat probably any team in the world playing like that. Let's move on to our derby. Right? Obviously, we might speak a bit long about this one because this game had a bit of everything. And I'll come to you with the question because I spoke about Jamison Gibson Park. Is Emrose Papier the most unlucky player in terms of missing out of selection for the Springbok squad? Because we're not just talking about this season now. We're talking about 2-3 seasons. They've been in the final 4 seasons in a row. He's 3 seasons out of the 4. He's been vital to every single one of them. Just this season, his number 10 partner has been Johan Goosen, Jaco van der Walt, Boeta Chamberlain, Willie Leroux, and Keegan Johannes, right? And he's just partnered with them like he's been playing with them all season long. Credit to those guys for slotting into that 10 jersey as well. But as a 9, to have so many different partners and still just be cooking left, right, and center over all the seasons, how unlucky is this guy?
Yeah, he is unlucky. We spoke about it last week. Obviously, he didn't have the best game last week, which we mentioned. But this week, it was like day and night. When he's playing some of his best rugby, he's untouchable. And he's unlucky in the sense that, yes, he has been given an opportunity before. I feel like now he's in his prime. But because of the depth we've got in this country, a lot of the time these players just don't get given that second chance. And we've talked about the Ivan Roos, and I know he's back in selection now because of the unfortunate injury with Cameron. But, you feel bad for players like this because they're putting their hand up week in, week out. You mentioned he's been, partnered up with how many different fly-offs throughout the season. And he's proven time and time again that he can put in solid performances and world-class performances, just like this past weekend. So you're definitely right in saying he is unlucky. It's just one of those unfortunate things when it comes to the quality in scrum offs. And look, I would say
he's better than all the scrum offs. Even like, I know everyone loves Grant Williams, but I think he's been better than Grant Williams. Grant Williams, as a matter of fact, he doesn't start for the Sharks. He's not on the bench. He's probably injured, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't understand it, right? But obviously, Kobus Reinach is kind of on the back end of his career. I think he's better than Morgan van den Berg. I think he's better than Faf de Klerk.
And Jaden.
He's been the best. And I'm just thinking, what more do you want from Emrose? He kind of reminds me, his gameplay is a lot like Jamison Gibson Park. I'm not saying he's as good as Jamison Gibson Park, but he's defensively there. He's quick at the breakdown, right? He's quick at the ruck. He runs the backline for the Bulls, in my opinion. His box kicks are on point. He's got a snipe that's not afraid of anything, right? Like, this guy sees a gap, he goes for it. He's got so many line breaks there. Just thinking, like, I don't understand how he's not there. Because I saw some people on social media talk about, like, well, he had his Bok opportunity and he stunk it out a bit in that Welsh game a good few years ago. But then you're like, well, the other guys got their opportunity again. You look at the guys that made their debut with him or played in that game with him while they were still youngsters. Pieter-Steph du Toit, double World Player of the Year. Volko Low, the likes of those guys, right? They all play there. They're still in the Bok lineup. So you can't use that as an excuse of why he shouldn't be there now. We've all seen it where a guy maybe hasn't impressed at first glance, but then gets that second opportunity, and he's just absolutely brilliant. And how old is Emrose Papier now? Let me check.
If I'm correct in saying, I think he's 3 years older than me, so he should be around 29 years old.
He's 28. He
28.
literally, okay, he's 29 today because his birthday is the 10th of June.
Did I not just hit that spot on?
Yeah,
That's
brilliant.
some rugby knowledge. Anyways, yeah, look, that's still young, but like you were saying, look, even in that team, when Emrose had his chance, you look at those players and you're like, okay, cool, well, they're still playing. But I think a lot of the time, these specific positions, like your scrum halves and your fly halves, they take a lot of flack, especially on social media, and a lot of pressure. You look at Mani Lebok of recent time, they get a lot of flack for when they play poorly, if you can put it that way. And I think there's a different mentality when it comes to selection, when it comes to those sort of positions. So, who knows what Rusty's thinking? It still baffles me to this day that Jaden is so praised in that Springbok setup amongst the coaches. And I say praised, I don't mean like we've heard much on social media about, the coaches speaking about Jaden, but he just gets these opportunities and you're like, okay, but yes, he has a good game here and there, but is he doing exceptional things that make you feel like, wow, this is the next Farid Priya, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
There's
you
nothing
think about
really there.
we bring in Tony Brown to play this expansive game of rugby. Who fits the mold better? Just on face value. If you had to look at their franchise games between Jaden Hendricks and Emrose Papier, it's Emrose all day long.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I love Rassie. We all love Rassie. But at some point, you're just like, well, everyone's calling for a guy. Literally everyone. How is he not selected? What are we not seeing? We obviously don't know Rassie's rugby, right? But when everyone calls for a guy, it's just like, what is going on? I just don't understand it. But anyway, enough talk about that. Brilliant game. But the Sharks had their opportunities. And it's not just me thinking that the Sharks could have arguably won that game. They had their opportunities, but they left their hands in the asshole with the amount of knock-ons that they had. How many times did they want to get into that 22 and leave without any points whatsoever? They had their opportunities. Lukanya Arm had a stinkfest. Lukanya Arm is a great player, but goodness, he is struggling out there at the moment.
Mapimpi not far behind.
Mapimpi's had a good season, to be fair, so I don't mind him being in the box selection. But you're thinking about the other 13s that could have been selected. I'm just like, well,
Yeah.
Lukanya, what is going on? You have to pick that game up, right? Because there was a couple of opportunities. And I've been seeing like TikTok edits of people just taking the piss with Lukanya. And it's sad, right? Because he was the best outside centre in the world, well, in our opinion. And I was just like, I would do anything for that Lukanya arm back. Anything. But it's Jesse's jersey. It's just sad.
Yeah. It was like a lackluster performance from him. It feels like he's sort of playing like he's got too much time on the ball when he doesn't, and he's trying these things that maybe in the past would work. I mean, you saw him get the ball on a turnover. I think he ripped it from someone, and then he put a kick through, and it was a horrible kick and just went out. You saw times where he wanted to offload, and his arms were tackled, and there he knocks the ball. I know Mapimpi's had a good season, but I felt that he was below par in this game, exposed multiple times. The Bulls were just so much more physical, and it scares me a little bit because I'm like, well, Sharks have a lot of South African, Bok players, and you're like, but we know, the Boks play these Springbok players play a lot different in green and gold. It's a little
They
bit.
might be playing a bit different in green and gold, but it doesn't take away that they got absolutely hammered at scrum time.
Ooh,
Jan-Hendrik Wessels, Johan Grobler, and Volko Lou take a bow. I've never seen scrums like this. They are scrumming the Springbok literal front row into bits and pieces. The Springbok front row that smashes other teams. If that doesn't tell you that those guys have to wear the green and gold, I don't know what will. Right? Because on form, I love Oaks. I still reckon he has to start. But then on the bench, give me Jan-Hendrik Wessels. I don't even care. He's been brilliant. Who was the number 3 for the Sharks? Was it Vincent Koch? I can't even remember now.
Yeah.
Obliterated. Volker Low has to be there. I love Netling Fouché. I think Netling Fouché is a great scrummager. I love Frans Malherbe. But on form, it has to be Volker Low in that 3 jersey. Bongi Manambi's not been at the races this season. How Johan Grobler hasn't made it, I don't know. I just don't know. You could arguably go if Rashi really sees Jan Hendrik Wessels as someone that can play hooker as well. I would just go with even Oxenchair in the 1 jersey, Jan Hendrik Wessels in that 2 jersey, because Malcolm will most likely play off the bench, and then Volker Low in that 3 jersey. That would be the right one on form, in my opinion. If that's really how you want to go, because the Sharks got demolished. It was scary.
Yeah, on form, you're correct in saying that. So the only thing that I dislike about Volkolo's game is a lot of the time he is beaten on defense. You see it with backline players a lot of the time. So if he can tighten up a little bit on that defensive aspect where, those one-on-ones, obviously if it's a prop running at him or a lock, he makes his tackles, but I have seen him, be exposed in positions like that where, you've got a more of an elusive player coming at him. He's a big guy, so to move around is a bit hard for him. So I'd like to see him sharpen up on that. But you're right in saying that they absolutely smashed that scrum. I was watching you at home and I was like what's going on here? That's crazy.
No, it was scary. The Bulls had a couple of really outstanding players. Sebastian de Klerk probably played his best game that I've ever seen him play. I mean, that cross kick that he put in, there you go. Another 10, first receiver. And nothing from it. Gets the ball on the 1 wing. He is a wing, by the way. He's not supposed to be kicking like this. Gets the ball, jogs back a couple of meters, sees some space. Boom, there you go, Kanan Moody. Taking it over my pimps. Easy as you like. Marcel Kutsia, once again, a lot of people have been talking about him missing out in the Bok jersey. Right? Obviously, our Lucy's are the depth that we have there is incredible, right? So I do feel for him because he's been sensational this season. But obviously, the biggest talking point, Cameron Anakum getting injured and missing, probably the Bulls' best player, you would say, after Volker Low this season, out for the final. How big of a loss is that one?
Well, you saw in the end whistle the emotion on his face. I think he probably felt, well, look, it's not only he's missing a final, but he's missing an entire international season as well, where he can get the opportunity.
Probably the one that everyone was going to look at him. This was the perfect opportunity.
This was his time. This was the perfect time for him to get a couple games in, and I think that was all running through his mind. For me, it's a bit of a tough one to swallow because we're looking for a new 8. I think something, another 8 coming into the Springbok team, like a guy like Cameron Hanekom, is just going to elevate the Springboks a whole lot more. So it was sad to see. You could immediately see the pain. He had the green whistle in his mouth. He was going through it.
Yeah,
so,
understandably, because we're sitting with the season without Dwayne Vermeulen, obviously because of retirement. Jasper Wiese coming off a very, very long injury, so there was a lot of hype and talking about Cameron Hanekom. Deserved that call up. All eyes were going to be on him. Obviously, that's opened up the space for Evan Roos now, but I mean, I don't expect to see Evan Roos playing because obviously because of the drama and being thrown in there last second. But I've got a question for you. If you had to do this, hold up your finger before the game and thought, who's guaranteed to get on the try scoring sheet? What's the first name that would have come to your mind?
Out of both teams?
Yeah. If you say anything other than Ethan Hooker, you're wrong, right? That guy just scored another try. I swear every time he touches the ball, he scores. He actually scored 2 tries, the one getting disallowed for the offside. Yeah. Brilliant interception. I'm just so happy that we are seeing him in these horrendous pick and pay warm-up jerseys, right? Because those warm-up kits that the box launched out there that we saw yesterday, it's fucking trash. It's trash. It has to be drop dead awful. But I'm so happy that he's there, and I want to see him getting some game time. obviously I would like him to play on the center. I'd actually like to see him play a bit of outside center. I know Jesse is there, but if we're going to stick with Damien's the best in the world. I want to see Ethan Hooker maybe getting around there because I don't want to see him on the wing. His first position is center. This guy is unbelievable. As we just spoke about the guys from Leinster like Gibson Park, Jack Conan, we talk about Cameron Anokom and those type of things. Ethan Hooker has been unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's one to look out for. I mean, besides the amazing season he's had, and look, I want to say credits to John Plumtree for getting the Sharks to where I think they finished 14th last year. So they've gone up quite a bit, even though the performances weren't the best. They placed a little bit higher. Yeah, they went trophyless, but that's fine. But standout players, Ethan Hooker, he's such a talent to look out for. I can't wait for him to get his opportunity. I'd also like to see him at centre. But you look at some other wings on the other side. You already mentioned Sebastian de Klerk, born in 2000 from the alma mater, Boerland Lampo. And then you've got 2 years later, a star is born, Kana Moody, also from Boerland Lampo. So we know that something correct is going on in the Paarl. Whatever water they're drinking or whatever, they're doing on the farm there is working.
Don't forget about Jorenzo Julies as well.
Well, Jorenzo is Stellenbosch Boykie, Paul Roos, but Boerland Lampo
is close enough. It's close enough.
Close enough. Just on the other side of the Boerewors curtain.
But it's literally like 20 minutes. So
20 minutes, yeah, 20 minutes. And I mean, Kana Moody as well. Literally, his aerial skills for me is the best in South Africa. Fussy, but for winger, he's got some crazy aerial skills that I think the Boks are going to need in this international season.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? We all watch this game in terms of how they're going to slot into the Springbok setup. I didn't for me, whoever won this game, I didn't really care too much. I was just like, I want to see a proper game of South African derby where you see the big boys that have just been called up to the Springbok squad stand out. And I think that's what we got, right? We got a good game from all of those guys that know they have to have a little bit of a stamp of authority on this game. They need to put their hand up and perform. Obviously, we didn't get the opportunity to see Jorenzo, but he's also not been selected. I don't think he's far away from a selection. He's been very, very good this season. If Lucanio has another season like this one, Jorenzo probably takes that 13 jersey next season because he's been unreal.
So, just correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Jorenzo was on the bench in the initial squad that came out, and the day of the game, they changed it to a 6-2.
Yeah, I think you're correct in that.
And I think that could have played a little bit of a role in the semi-final because wasn't having the best game. If they brought on someone like Jorenzo in the 60th minute, it could have opened up a lot more opportunity for some tries. So that might have bit them in the house.
Yeah, if you gave Jorenzo the room that got for a bit of that game, could have been a different story. It's just it was a bad game for Like I'm not just I don't want to keep on hammering on the guy. Like we know the talent, we know how special he is. But if it doesn't pick up, sometimes I feel like rugby's not ruthless enough. Then you got to lose your spot and have another guy go in there. And I feel like the way that Jorenzo played the entire season, the way that everyone's been talking about him, he would feel very hard done by not getting some game time in the semi-final of that one. Like on form, he probably should have been selected. And that's the thing, right? What's your opinion on guys being selected on, let's say, name or past accomplishments compared to the guys on form? Because on form, you would most definitely have Jorenzo have played in that 13 jersey.
Well, I think you always need, in an international setup, you always need that balance between, your experienced players that have done it, been there, and then your players in form. So we see a lot of changes in the Springbok team. Like you said, do we want too much?
No, but focus it on the Sharks one, because I'm referring to the Sharks in that semi-final.
Okay, so you're referring to, yeah, I mean, it is a semi-final. We have to remember that. Has been in some of the biggest, games that we've both witnessed, whether that be, World Cup finals, etc. But it's a tough one because, is the experienced player. He knows what it takes to win these big occasions. But I feel like, sometimes on form, you need to select these players. This is why we've seen, Ethan Hooker have the season that he's had, because he's been selected, he's been backed, and then he keeps on improving his performance. And then Lorenzo has a similar season to Ethan Hooker, but then you just drop him, right before the playoffs. And it's like, what does that do to the player's, confidence, or whether he thinks he's doing something right or wrong? So it's a tough
We've seen that
situation.
in the Curry Cup as well, and I'm not a big fan of it. Like the player that gets you there, back them. Because,
Yeah.
you see it in the Curry Cup where the guys play the entire Curry Cup season, kind of with the academy players, the players that are trying to break through into the, let's say, official Sharks team. They didn't get to the semi-final and the final, and then doesn't matter who the center pairing was and how good they were, they're going to go back to Andre Estrays and Rukanya for that. I'm just like, well, that is going to knock the guy's confidence, as you just mentioned. Like, just back them, continue to back them. They've got you there. They literally got you there. Back those guys to get it done and over the line. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I would have gone with Chirenza, but that's obviously easier said in reflection of how the game played out. Like, obviously, maybe I wouldn't have said it if Lukanya had a world-class game. Then you're like, well, that's why you back him, because you know what they can do. So it's a tough one, but we've seen it play out either one of the two ways a million times. This is just purely on reflection. I'm just like, well, Chirenza was right there. He's been there all season. He's been one of the Sharks' players of the season. People have been calling him to get into the Bok lineup even. So, you ready to wrap it up?
Hindsight's 2020. We can
Yeah.
say this after the game, but if Lorenzo was chosen and it was a similar outcome, then we'd maybe be singing
Yeah,
another song.
exactly.
Why didn't we have an experienced player? You know what I mean? So, I think it's easy for us as fans maybe to sit on the side and be like, let's play this person on form, but not sort of understand the coach's, premise behind it. I personally would have also played Lorenzo, or at least had him on the bench. But, after the game, there's always going to be opinions, and it's one of those things. But he definitely should have had some minutes in that game.
Yeah. Anyway, people, thank you for watching. Please do remember to like and subscribe. We do appreciate you guys following us on this journey. And we will see you next time for the preview of the URC final. Have a good one. Goodbye.